Now, I think the Keychron Q1 is a great keyboard. It is a little controversial because it's basically a GMMK Pro, but I think they did a lot of things better. The Keychron Q1 does come in a pretty hefty box, so your product won't be damaged when you get it. So when I opened mine, I didn't see that switch and keycap puller, which I thought would come with it, but I thought to myself, maybe because I got the bare bones kit, it didn't come with it. So I take a second look at their site, and it says that it's supposed to come with a switch and keycap puller, hex screw, screwdriver, but I didn't get any of that. Fortunately enough for me, I have all these tools since I do build a lot of custom keyboards, but I would consider the Q1 an entry-level keyboard, so I don't expect you guys to have these tools. So Keychron, get everyone their tools. Anyways, the Q1 is an exploded 75% layout keyboard, which I think does look really good, but they weren't the first keyboard to do this. Now I did want to go with the navy blue option because, you know, there was black and silver, and those are just basic. I want to do something new. Now for the stock cable that it comes with a coiled braided aviator cable. I'm going to assume it comes in the color of the keyboard that you order. Since I ordered navy, I got navy. Impressive quality for this. Now it's not quite as good as these ones that have the Tech Flex on it, which keep it nice and sturdy and protect that wire, but they're a hell of a lot better than this. Just a telephone cable you get for your keyboard. Today we'll be using Kinetic Labs Salmon tactile switches. Full disclosure, they did send this out to me, but they didn't pay me to say anything other than my honest opinion. So the Salmon tactile is made up of a palm stem, polycarbonate polymer housings, and a gold-plated symmetric long spring. Now I highly recommend lubing these because these things are scratchy as hell. The legs are slightly oiled, but it really doesn't make a difference. They were just so scratchy and pingy that I didn't like the sound of them, and I didn't even like the feel of them. But I lubed them. I even lubed the legs because I wanted to reduce the tactility a little bit. They were a little bit too snappy for me. Now to lube these switches, I used Krytox 205 grade 0 on the stem and housing, and then GPL 105 on the springs, and I just bag lubed those. Now the case is a full CNC aluminum body, double gasket design, but it has a steel plate, which I thought was odd, because that's not standard. Normally it's at least aluminum. They do have additional plates available on their website for an extra cost. To open up this case and modify it, which I highly recommend because it's really dense and doesn't have a lot of flex, it has these hex gold-plated screws, which add a nice little gold aesthetic to that blue. Again, it didn't come with a hex screw for me, so I used my wow stick to unscrew all of these. While I take this keyboard apart, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like keyboards. It's free, and it helps me out a lot. Once those are all taken out, you can separate the top and bottom housing. And inside you'll find the PCB and plate combo, and then the foam and the bottom housing on the other side. Now this is quality foam. It does dampen the sound, but it does make the keyboard really stiff. And there's actually a top thicker layer and a bottom super thin layer. And the problem that I had with these foams is that they're very dense and they don't really compress very well. So when you want that flexibility in your typing, it won't really compress. And the problem with completely taking the foam out, you get that flexibility, but now it's just really hollow and really pingy, which for me personally, I hate. Now, since Keychron did have 2 layers of foam, I actually recommend taking off that bottom thin layer so that you can dampen the sound without it being too hollow, but you still have that flex. Now to remove that PCB and plate combo, you disconnect the daughter board via ribbon cable. You just unlock it, and then you take that ribbon cable right on out. Make sure to be gentle with it or you will rip the ribbon. After that ribbon cable is removed, you can just lift the PCB plate combo right on out. Now just unscrew the gold-plated screws, and then you can disconnect the plate from the PCB. Now that the keyboard's fully disassembled, you have that steel plate, 75% PCB with screw-in stabilizers, and the case. So Keychron stock stabilizers, I think that they were better than GMMK Pro's GOAT stabilizers, but the lube job wasn't the best. It was just kind of globbed on the edge of the wire and not really evenly coated. And there was a little bit of lube on the inside of the stem. I mean, at least they tried, right? Like, come on. There are two ways I like to lube my stabilizers. One with grease on the wire and 205 on the housings, and the other is the Holy mod, but I'm going to be using the grease and 205 because it's just easier. So first thing that we're going to need to do is clean off the pre-lubed stabilizer, and then we can start applying our own lube. And I'm just using a paper towel to wipe it off. You can use soap and water, but it's just easier this way. So now we just apply some Krytox 205 to our stabilizer housing and stem, and as Teja says, less is more. So you just want a very thin coat on there. Now when it comes to putting dielectric grease on the wire, I like to dip the wire into the tube, and then I use a brush to make sure it's nice and evened out. And then you can just reassemble your stabilizers and you're good to go. Hopefully you won't need to plug the butt. Now that we finished lubing our stabilizers, we can screw them back into the PCB. And our last step is reassembling the keyboard, and it should be good to go. Nowadays, 5-pin hot swap is just the wave because soldering is a pain in the ass. Couple of things to look out for are bent pins, and make sure to not push your hot swap socket out or you will need to solder it, which makes a hot swap soldered and it sucks. And the final touch on any keyboard is the keycaps. I went with GMK Bento and I think it actually looks pretty good. Here's a sound test, let me know what you think.